Now, on UNGA 80, Professor Keneth Nweke joins me now to discuss Nigeria's demand for permanent seat on the UN Security Council. Welcome, Prof. Thank you very much for joining us inside of 12 Report. Professor, Nigeria has renewed its call once again for a permanent seat on the UN Security Council. Now, from a political standpoint, how realistic is this ambition? And what would it mean for Nigeria and Africa at large if this was to be granted?
Yeah, ordinarily, then it would have been a good thing to be granted permanent membership of the Security Council. But unfortunately, yeah, so on what basis would Nigeria, for instance, be granted such? It is not as if one should cast aspersion on one's country. We should be able to talk things that should promote, our own country before the outside world. Being a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council would have been something, good. But it is not to for a country like us to go outside there and want to, play or be seen to be playing a big role in the UN. And yet at home, there's hunger here, there's no electricity, there's no road, nothing. And so on what basis are you asking? And again, you imagine where the U.S. Department of State, is coming up with threats of canceling our visas and, for the corrupt officials of Nigerians and all that. What kind of thing is that? And then you want to go ask for membership of the Security Council of the United Nations. Yes, it is a call, and it's a call. It's another renewed call, and it will end there. I don't see that happening, unfortunately. Unfortunately, we shouldn't be in the, we shouldn't ordinarily join in campaigning against our own country, but the political leadership needs to, get back home to fix Nigeria. We need to fix ourselves first before we want to project ourselves before the outside world, because if we don't have that foundation to be able to launch ourselves at that level, then we would have as well looked very empty, even in sitting there, assuming without considering that it is granted to Nigeria. But you must have resources, to be able to do that. Then you must also show that in governance, there is transparency in terms of managing resources. But unfortunately, that's not what we find in Nigeria. There is corruption on the high side, and then the infrastructure is nothing to write home about. The economy is in shambles. And so what are you asking to become a permanent member of? Is it a fun fair? Not a fun fair. Come back home here. We want to see that governance is improved, that life and properties are protected. And that's what we need.
Professor?
It's not a time to go and show and remain a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. It will not bring us food on the table.
Okay. So, Professor, your skepticism actually worries me, but then again, your informed conclusion there explains why. But let's ask, we've seen growing debates around reforming global institutions like the UN. Trump was very, very vocal about that one. In your view, what structural changes are most urgently needed to make these bodies more representative and also effective, especially when it comes to the African context?
Yeah, of course. Before we begin to expect those things, those reforms, at that level to begin to impact on us or begin to ask certain things that should impact on us. First of all, we must deal with the issues, locally, domestically. These issues around, managing our resources. The issues around our elections. How are we, able to manage, our electoral processes in such a manner that, the right leaders are enthroned, and then how is judiciary that ought to be the arbiter, able to adjudicate matters, of elections and all of those. So those things matter so much. So it is not about the reforms that go on at that level, how they impact on us as a country, yes, or as Africans. Yeah, they are very critical. But we must, as a people, begin to reform ourselves. We must begin to do certain things that ought to change, ourselves for good. Yeah, we are still struggling with leading people. Where we are still struggling with leading people. We are still struggling with, making people to have, for followership to elect their leaders, And so we are still struggling with just election. And then we are struggling with managing our resources efficiently. And this corruption is high, infrastructure is on the high decay and all that. So what are we expecting those reforms at the UN to impact us? Yes, Trump spoke about how to do, but Trump has his own issues too, because he doesn't want people to come to his country, and then he's also encouraging other countries to discourage people from entering their countries and all that. And because we are not able to manage our resources efficiently for our own good, for the good of our people. So why if we do that, Trump will not be speaking the way he's speaking, because it's not also, his government is not also taking the burdens that the United States used to take, around the things that concern the United Nations, bearing the financial brunt of the United Nations. And so for me, as far as I'm concerned, it's important to begin to, look at why, we have remained where we are over time, and stop expecting the best things to come from such organizations as the United Nations.
Okay. All right, now, Professor Nweke, let's talk about Shettima's speech. Let's talk about the fact that he's touched on immigration development, and he also talked about, Nigeria being the moral voice for the South. He talked about our position when it comes to certain wars across the world, especially when it has to do with the Israel-Hamas issue. Now, I'm wondering, where does this position Nigeria when it comes to its allies with other countries who might have differing position on that war?
Yeah, of course, and I do not even know where Nigeria stands as it is.
Let me let you know where Nigeria stands. As a 2012, Nigeria actually recognized Palestine, and since then we've had very long-standing relationship with them.
Yeah, so what I'm saying now, other countries have come out clearly. The UK, of course, has come out clearly, Canada, Australia, to recognize. So I'm sure that Nigeria will be a bit careful in where it goes. Of course, that is not also in tandem with the expectations of a Trump-led government of the United States, and that's not also going down well with him. You can also see that, you can also observe that, while he was presenting his own address. And so, for me, I think that Nigeria has also come to some crossroads as it is right now. I may not be able to be very open and visibly to do so, as far as this matter is concerned. I'm thinking that Nigeria, even if that had been done before, will be a bit careful in coming out clearly, to recognize the Palestinian state or joining forces, with maybe like under the Commonwealth ordinarily. That should be where it should go. That Nigeria will. I see them joining the other Commonwealth nations in recognizing the Palestinian state. And again, being the fact that it is not going down well with Trump. Again, Nigeria appears to be having some kind of
Professor, I'm very sorry, but I'll have to cut you there because we have run out of time for this conversation. But thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Nweke, for giving us your detailed input on this conversation. Thank you, sir.